Here's a short video on percentile calculations, most of the common type questions. First of all, 1%, it means percent, and it means one hundredth of a part. So 1% is same as 0.01, or in a fraction form 1 over 100. First one here is that how much is 80% of 120 euros, and one always calculates the multiplier. So we change 80% to be 0.8, and we just multiply 180 times 0.8, and that would be 96 euros. This is the best way of calculating that, because we will be using this method later. Then second type of percentile calculation is comparing numbers. So how many percent is greater is 2000 than 1840. So this type of a question is quite simple. We just calculate the difference of those numbers, and then we divide. And this is the only thing here, is that which number we are using to divide with, and it is always the number after the than word, and usually in the questions you cannot find the than word, but you can rearrange the question in a way that you can find the than word, but it's always when we compare numbers, this is how you do it. How many percent greater is 2000 than 1840? So difference, and then we divide with the number that we are comparing the thing. And usually this type of a question would be in a way that, let's say the salary was increased from, let's say new salary would be 2000 and the old salary would be 1840. That type of a question we will always compare to the older value. So we would compare to the old salary, and again that would be 1840. So that's one of the type of the questions, typical percentile question. And then number 3, and this is important, how we calculate when something is increased or decreased certain amount of percentage. So 1500 is increased by 30%. So again we calculate this multiplier. So 100% plus 30%, that is 130%, and that changed into a decimal number, that is 1.3. And again we just multiply 1500 times 1.3, and that's the new value. Same thing when we are decreased, we just calculate the multiplier. 100% minus 30, we get 0.7, and again we can calculate the new value with one calculation like that. And like I said, this is the best way of doing that, because we need this type of doing that later. So that's really typical type of a question. Now these 4 and 5, these would be the ones you could find in the, these are more exam question type questions, what one could find. 4 is when we are trying to find an original value. So we know the new value and we know how much the old value has changed, and we are looking for the old value. So salary is increased by 5.5%, and we know the new salary, it's given. And you see, we calculate the multiplier first. So that's important. So almost every time you do this one, you calculate the multiplier. So because salary was increased, it's 100% plus 5.5%, and we get the multiplier 1.055. So here this has to be done with an equation. So X is marked as an old salary, and because the old salary was increased by 5.5%, we multiply the old salary X with 1.055, and we get this type of equation. So old salary X is multiplied with 1.055, and we get the new salary. So we have an equation like this, and we saw X, so we divide with 1.055, and we get the old salary to be, and we round up the value. Well, this could be reasonable rounding up, 2,420 euros. That would be the old salary. And really there is no other way than using the equation in a question like this. When we are looking for the old value, this is the way to do it. Now these these are the ones you could find in the interest exam type questions, and these are really typical percentile questions. Many would answer this wrong, not calculating these multipliers like I've done here. So here is well, a stock value of the stock is first increased 4.5%, then it's lowered by 3.2%, and finally it's increased by 2.5%. And now the question is, how many percentage was the change in total? And this is never to be calculated that you will use this percentage, like you would do like 4.5 minus 3.2 plus 2.5%. You will never do that. It's zero marks from the question. You cannot do it like that. You will have to do this again, find these multipliers. So first change is increased by 4.5%. So the multiplier is 1.045. Then it's decreased. So again we find the multiplier, and then it's increased, and we find the multiplier. So what happens in a calculation? We don't know the original value, so we mark that with a letter. A would work perfectly, or any letter. So what happens is we just do those changes in a row. So A is the original value. First it is multiplied or increased by 4.5%. So we multiply it with this multiplier. Then it is decreased, and again we multiply the thing with the multiplier. And lastly it is increased by 2.5%. So we multiply with this multiplier, and we get the new value. So original value is A, new value is 1.03685 times A. So it means that the new value is greater, and it is 1.03685 times greater than the original value. And now we just need to kind of change that into how many percentages that is. So the number in front of A, that is multiplied with 100 to get that in a percentage. So what this number means, it means that if the original value is 100%, the new value is 103 point some percent. So it is 3.685% greater. And again we round up the value, that would be 3.7% greater. We have to add the whether it's greater or smaller. So 3.7% greater. So that would be the change in value of a stock. Now this B type, again, super typical, more challenging type of percentile question. So here's a company selling a product in a sale, and again we are asking how many percent is the total change in income for the company when the company is lowering the price of the product 30%, and then at the same time the product will be sold more by 30%. So the price is lowered by 30%, but at the same time the number of products sold would be increased by 30%. Now if the question like this would be asked in the streets, most of the people would say, well there's no change, because price is higher 30%, and but at the same time the products are sold 30% more. So where is the change? And we will see that there is change, because this 30%, these or these 30% here they are kind of calculated from the different value. So the lowering the price actually is more than the increase. Well, anyway, we can see how that type of a question has to be answered. Again, one cannot like subtract the percentiles and get 0%. That would never work. It's not gonna fly. This is the way one would do this type of a question when we have something initially happening and something at the end. I would always do a table like this. First of all, we know the income for the company would be the price of the product times the number of products sold. So I would do a table like this. So in one column here I have the beginning values, and a column here I have the end values. And things that are changing here is price, number sold, and the income for the company. So in the beginning, again, there is no price given, there is no number of product sold given. So price I mark A, number sold would be B, so the income in the beginning would be A times B for the company. Now the price is lowered by 30%, so the new price would be 0.7 times A. 100% minus 30, that is 70, so that's 0.7. And then the number of products sold was 30% greater, so that is 100% plus 30, that's 130%. And again, we're looking for the multiplier, that's 1.3. So these are the end values. And the income at the end would be those numbers multiplied, so 0.7 A times 1.3 B, so that's how much the company is getting at the end. So we calculate the value for the new income here. So we just multiply the 0.7 times 1.3, and we see the new value for the income is 0.91 times A times B. So the actual income at the end is lower than the initial income. And how much it is lower? Now we compare the 0.91. This is same thing as 91% from the original value. So if the new value is 91% of the original value, then it means that it has decreased 9%, because 100% is the original value. Now the new value is 91%, so there is a decrease of 9%. Or one can do this with the multipliers, 1 minus 0.91, and we get that the total income is decreased by 9%. So here are the most, I'd say the most typical type of a percentile questions one can find.